March 3rd, 2019, 2:31 a.m. Rain pounds the pavement as a fleet of unmarked SUVs skids to a stop outside corporate research lab. Doors slam. Agents rush out, guns raised, voices slicing through the sirens. East Wing move, find him, now. Inside, emergency lights flicker over a hallway littered with overturned chairs and scattered documents. Something violent happened here, but whatever it was, ended fast. Too fast. At the far end, an office door hangs crooked, one hinge ripped loose. An agent pushes inside. The room is untouched, eerily tidy, except for a single leather notebook resting in the center of the desk, almost staged. He opens it. Pages filled with equations, sketches, phrases underlined twice, and dates, each one predicting events that have unfolded tonight with chilling accuracy. Then, they reach the final entry. I will disappear on March 3rd. Do not try to stop it. In the surveillance room, they rewind the last camera feed. At 2:14 a.m., the scientist walks calmly down the corridor. No hesitation, no fear. At 2:15 a.m., he turns a corner and never appears again. No exit, no tampering, no blind spots, just gone. One agent whispers, he knew. Another, then what were we too late to stop? Because the last line in that notebook feels less like a warning and more like a verdict. If you're reading this, I've crossed the threshold. They would later learn his name had already become a quiet legend in certain corners of academia. Dr. Elias Mercer, a researcher known not for breakthroughs that won prizes, but for the questions he chose to ask. Questions most scientists avoided because they brushed too close to the uncanny. He grew up in a fog-soaked coastal town in northern Maine, where horizons vanished and nights were so silent they felt unreal. His childhood notebooks, still kept in a box by his sister, were filled with bending horizons, impossible angles, and geometric patterns no 8-year-old should understand. Even then, Elias wasn't drawn to science itself, but to the edges of things, boundaries where one space seemed to blur into another. By his 20s, he had become the kind of mind that unsettled people. He challenged constants, proposed models with implications no one wanted to consider, and published papers reviewers described as mathematically sound, but philosophically disturbing. He rarely debated, he only refined, quietly pushing deeper. At the Institute, he observed more than he spoke. People noticed how often he paused mid-conversation to stare at doorways or thresholds. Some dismissed it as eccentricity, others called it brilliance. But 5 months before his disappearance, everything shifted. He started arriving before sunrise, leaving after midnight, locking his office door even for a 5-minute break. He began carrying a second notebook, black, unmarked, and never let it out of his sight. When asked what he was working on, he simply smiled and changed the subject. And then, without warning, he made a request that unsettled the entire department. He asked for access to building blueprints. Not the lab's equipment schematics, not the server layout, the hallways, the walls, the blind corners. He was mapping something no one else could see. Elias didn't ask for equipment, funding, or assistance. He asked for blueprints, the entire layout of the research building. At first, no one cared. Scientists make strange requests all the time. But then he pinned the maps across his walls and began marking them with red threads and symbols that made no sense to anyone but him. He found tiny inconsistencies everywhere. A hallway 1 foot shorter than its official measurement. A door frame misaligned by an inch despite flawless construction. A storage room where sound died instantly, as if the walls swallowed it. Small things, harmless things, but Elias believed they formed a pattern. He began walking the building late at night, pacing specific corners, stepping forward and back like he was testing the air. When a janitor asked what he was doing, Elias answered, "Some places are thinner." His behavior escalated. He stopped taking elevators. He tracked which hallways he crossed each day. He watched security footage for hours, staring at empty corridors like they were hiding something. Once, at 2:15 a.m., a guard noticed Elias lean toward the screen and whisper, "There," again, but the footage showed nothing at all. Then came the black notebook. He wrote constantly in it, equations, diagrams, and single sentences that made people uneasy. One assistant glimpsed a line before he snapped it shut. The building is shifting again. In the final weeks, he began behaving like a man preparing for departure. Cleaning his office, returning books, dressing sharply, as though for an appointment only he understood. On March 1st, he drafted an email to himself. "The threshold will align on the 3rd. I have to be there." And so, on March 3rd at 2:14 a.m., he walked down that corridor. At 2:15, he vanished. The final 72 hours of Elias Mercer's life were calculated, deliberate, unnerving. March 1st, 6:12 a.m. Elias enters the building carrying only his satchel and coffee. He doesn't go to the lab. He walks the corridors, pausing at tiles, touching walls, tilting his head as if listening to something invisible. He isn't navigating the building, he's surveying it. By noon, he stops eating. Meetings are ignored. When a colleague asks if he's okay, he replies, voice low, "Have you ever watched something approach before you can see it?" That night, at 11:57 p.m., he places chalk marks along the East Wing corridor, symbols later identified as spatial notations from his unpublished work. He believes something is forming. March 2nd, he barely sleeps. Arriving at 4:43 a.m., he checks the chalk, erases part, draws new lines. At 10:18 a.m., a colleague confronts him. He stands still, studying her face. Then, softly, it's aligning. Not perfectly, but more than before. When asked what he means, he simply walks away. Before leaving that evening, Elias prepares meticulously. Papers stacked, desk cleaned, clothing sharp. Colleagues assume he's preparing for an audit or leaving. He isn't. He opens the black notebook, writing in a continuous streak. Structures bend. Orientation determines access. If I align with its cycle, I may witness the fold. The threshold chooses. March 3rd, the day he predicted. He enters the East Wing at 1:47 a.m. Calm, composed. At 2:12 a.m., he reaches the corridor, touches the wall, closes his eyes. At 2:14, he steps inside. At 2:15, the camera glitches, half a frame lost. When the feed stabilizes, Elias is gone. No movement, no exit, no trace. Behind him, a chalk symbol appears, a circle with a line, the final mark in his private system. The corridor confirmed his observation. The threshold had acted, and Elias Mercer had vanished. By sunrise, the campus was chaos. Yellow tape blocked entrances. Investigators and technicians swarmed the East Wing. Every wall, floor, and ceiling checked. Yet the same truth stared them in the face. There was nowhere for Elias Mercer to go. No vents, no hatches, no hidden exits. Every route physically impossible. And yet, he had vanished. The lead investigator's statement read, "No evidence of abduction, no forced entry. Dr. Mercer is missing." Behind closed doors, the team whispered, "This makes no sense." The security footage glitched at the exact second he disappeared. One frame gone, not corrupted, not logged, just absent. 3 days later, faint chalk residue appeared 6 feet above the floor, an arc matching diagrams from his black notebook. It wasn't his chalk. It was decades old, as if the mark had been waiting behind a wall, only visible after he vanished. Physicists, engineers, and analysts tried to decode it. All agreed it wasn't natural. It wasn't human. It was deliberate and appeared after the corridor was sealed. Some guards reported fleeting distortions, subtle curves, shapes bending unnaturally, but on camera, they vanished. 3 days later, the East Wing was closed permanently. Not for safety, not investigation, no one would enter. The air felt wrong, heavy, almost aware. For those who worked alongside him, one fact remained. Elias Mercer had touched something no one else could see, and it left a mark the world could not erase. The East Wing stands empty, silent, yet anyone who knew Elias feels it. Hallways stretched too long, doors that resist, shadows that linger where no one stands. The building itself seems alive, holding a memory no one can erase. The black notebook remains locked away, its pages twist between equations, sketches, and cryptic warnings. The corridor chooses its own moments, edges fold for those who understand. Colleagues who watched him vanish still speak in hushed tones, recalling the calm, deliberate way he walked the corridor that night, as if meeting something he alone could see. Some claim fleeting glimpses of a figure moving along the East Wing at the same hour, 2:14 to 2:15 a.m. Others dismiss it as imagination, but everyone agrees the air feels different. He left a mark no one can explain. And the question haunts everyone who remembers him. Did Elias Mercer step through a threshold no one else could see, or did the building claim him? The chalk marks remain, the corridor waits, and somewhere, just beyond the edge of reason, Elias may still be there, watching. Some thresholds are not meant to be crossed, some mysteries are not meant to be solved, and some disappearances are not meant to be understood. If you want to experience the full story of Dr. Mercer in written form, we have also created an ebook edition linked below, perfect to read at your own pace and immerse yourself in the mystery. If this story left you with questions, you're not alone. Hit the like button, subscribe, and tell us in the comments what you believe happened to Dr. Mercer, because the truth might be stranger than anything we can explain. And before you go, tap the video on your screen to know what happened to the ship that vanished without a trace before the Titanic even existed.